So my title this evening is How to Develop and Retain a High Performance Mindset. I'm thrilled to be at this event, in a very virtual way. I think we've all been managing the last 12 months in a very challenged and difficult period. I hope everybody out there listening in is safe and well, and the times when we can get some of these events in a more face-to-face way are not too far away. This is a really interesting subject matter for me. So hopefully you'll get a few takeaways as we go through the session. I'm using that photo again for one main reason. One is I have a nice short back and sides, which I haven't had for quite a while, and I'm smiling. And I think it has something to do with perhaps later that afternoon I was going for a bite to eat and maybe a drink with some colleagues. And again, maybe some better days are ahead, and hopefully we get to have some of these events in person down the line. But thrilled to be here with everybody this evening. So how to develop and retain high performance. Quick one, which is a disclaimer. So in my preparation and my research to give you as impactful a session as possible, I did what we all do at every level of sales, and I Googled the answer. And I didn't base my points of view on what I got back, but I thought it was interesting that Google will give you nearly 100 million ideas on how to develop high performance in just over half a second. And I thought, well, hopefully I can retain people's attention for a lot longer and with a lot less to say. And clearly when you Google, you'll get various strands of interest in there and some really, really good nuggets. And I hope this adds to the body of work that might actually inspire or at least create interest in looking at this as a subject matter for a real strong sales career down the line. Why do I think I've got something to say? Well, I didn't start in sales today or yesterday. I'm one of the people who gets to say that they've been in tech sales since the late 1900s. I started in 1999 in Dell when I sold laptops and PCs and hardware, and moved into a kind of an application software business with a startup from the early parts of the 2000s. I've spent most of my career in that business working for an incredible entrepreneur and leader, Howard Beggs, who still leads up an incredible business that has gone on and developed into really, really fun and informing part of my career. And then in 2014, went back into the corporate world, joined Oracle and spent 5 years there before I joined HubSpot in the summer of 2019. So just over 18 months with what is a really incredible business, and proud to be with the company and on the panel that we have this evening. So enough context. Foundations for high performance. I think the point I want to make here is high performance is not a step that you take. It's not something that I'm going to tell you to do 2 or 3 things, and when you do them and suddenly you're doing high performance work. I think it's a space that you have to grow into. You have to know the basics of your role. They have to be very clearly understood, and you have to execute on them consistently at a high level. The graphics to the right to support my point. One of our founders, Dharma Shah, talks about aligning vectors for organizations to deliver high performance experience for customers. And I think in a kind of a reframe of that a little bit, I'd love everybody to think like that. You can set yourself up for, negative performance or even suboptimal performance and impact. And for some, good is good enough. But if you're driven to and for high performance, you want to be able to give maximum impact. And the shopping list to the left there, and this could be 3 slides long, it's the basics of the job. And it's true in any tech sales company, I would suggest. You need to know these really, really well before you, frankly, have any business thinking about high performance and how you might attain that type of results and performance effectively. For me, true high performance comes when you can consistently deliver results over an extended period of time. That's important. And then some. So sometimes doing that, becoming that sales rep, that manager, that director, that may not even be enough for you to be looked upon from your personal brand and the perception that you create as somebody that's working at a high performance level. So what I want to do now is effectively unpack some of those points of view that I talked about at the start. So the first one I want to share with you is not just you need to be good at communications. I mean, communication skills, which one of us doesn't have that on the CV? And I don't think that's enough for high performance. Create cartoon clarity is a really great phrase that I won't take credit for. An amazing board member at HubSpot, Jill Ward, coined it in a talk that I attended recently. And in this week of International Women's Day, really great to celebrate Jill, incredible leader, huge experience, and I learned a lot from that contribution. But she talked about creating cartoon clarity in the way that you communicate. For people who've worked with or around me, it reminded me of a phrase I use, which is, you should think and talk and ask questions with Fisher-Price grade language. And for those with children, or for those of you who have been a child, I hope that makes sense. Simple works. When you're in the internal and external parts of your job, you need to bring people with you in its simplest way. And when you're on the internal side, it's not just about having a manager or even a mentor. If you're at the high performance level and you have aspirations for your career to go in that direction, you need sponsors, you need advocates, you need people to talk up and for you when decisions are being made in the room. And it's similar for client engagements. High performance client engagements are about creating that energy and that view of you of somebody who talks really succinctly, can explain things really clearly. And again, that cartoon clarity aspect to communication is important. I don't want to offend anybody in a consultancy background, but the tagline I have there is more Dilbert, less Delight. And there's some amazing people in Delight, by the way. Selling is a team sport. So this concept of co-selling, it becomes even more and more important the further up market you go in terms of the size of company you're dealing with, the number of stakeholders on the procurement side that you're working with. And I think you need to be really clear that people view things through a lens. And it's not the same lens you do. So alignment is crucial internally in the first instance, so that again, you bring that sales team with you. And simple works. And you need to try and identify common ground if you're going to make progress. If you have your agenda and you have your ways of doing things, you will hit a barrier that you won't have the toolkit or the skill set to overcome, and that's a problem for high performance. And Stephen Coveney's book, look, not a new recommendation at sessions like this, The 7 Habits. Number 5 is seek first to understand and then to be understood. I think we should all try to do that a little bit more in our careers and maybe in our personal lives as well. What's going on over there before I feel the need to explain what's going on for me. And then the last one around this communications point is around developing a point of view. I've always at least tried to encourage people to develop a point of view, as opposed to consuming and regurgitating content. That is a problem in tech sales, sure. Lots of businesses in the space have incredible enablement people, have incredible learning and development, sales engineering, business development functions that support what it is we want to do in tech sales. But the real high performing people at all levels within business, they take all that on board, they digest it, and they reframe it through a point of view that feels like somebody is getting insight or wisdom. And, it'll be no surprise to people if anybody's out there and worked in me at Oracle. I think I read the Challenger sale 5 or 6 times in my time there as a book club. And I think the teach, tailor, take control steps through the Challenger really talks to this idea of, teaching is the foundations, tailoring the message probably comes with experience, and having the confidence to really take control of client engagements or even your own career internally. That's kind of operating at a high performance level. And you need to grow into that. Like I said at the start, it's a space you get to. It's not a thing you do. And then this idea, I was at a talk recently, humble confidence creates impact. And it's one of the heart attributes. If anybody's interested in the HubSpot story, Google Heart and our culture code. An empathetic communication style works better right now, and it will work consistently better into the future. And that confidence shouldn't come from any sense of arrogance. It should come from a sense of strength that's in you and what you're trying to bring to those that you engage with. And I suppose the call to action that I'll stick at the end of each idea, the one here is, frankly, people need to like dealing with you, and I'd encourage everybody to just do a self-check. Do they? When you review the impact you have on people, do they actually like dealing and communicating with you? Because clearly for high performance, they have got to. Number 2, slow down to speed up. I think in tech sales, we always present the positive. It's normal, right? But tech sales is tough. Complex digital strategies, platform IT infrastructure, deals. These are difficult problems our customers are grappling with, and they're difficult problems for us, depending on our tenure and even for more experienced people, to try and get a sense of and control. So I'd encourage everybody to just, become okay as quick as you can with feeling stretched, because that's where the growth zone is. I don't mind sharing with you. I was thrilled when Megan from our brand awareness team asked me to do this, and I said yes. I say yes to lots of things quite quickly. I had a moment or two on Sunday or Monday when I was like, God, I wish I didn't bite this off. And I got my preparation done, and I'm really pleased to have done that, because it reframed some of my thinking as well. So say yes to uncomfortable situations, and I think you'll grow more in that space. Success leaves clues. It's to do with joining the dots, which happens in retrospect. You don't see the dots in the future. You look at what's happened and you review your performance. And if you're on a track of high performance, you'll be able to see where those moments that matter happened. And your ability to think around corners talks to your strength of emotional intelligence. When people ask me, what do you look for in sales reps and managers? I could, but for an emphasis here, I'll say I couldn't care less about pipeline management or demoing software. I could, in the sense that it's table stakes, right? You've got to be able to do that stuff really well, but that won't differentiate you from everyone else in the marketplace. You've got to understand how you feel informs how you think informs how you behave, and the actions that you take. And in no other industry, I think, or role, does how you act directly linked to how much you earn. So why wouldn't you try to have a really strength around emotional intelligence? And that's something that you can work on. I think you need to invest in yourself. Coaching is an amazing way to develop. I'm lucky enough in HubSpot to be part of a Valor performance program, and it's amazing. My coach is an ex-Olympic gold medalist, Joe Jacoby, and I've just linked a little kind of note from him there in LinkedIn where he talks about practice versus game time. Think of performance athletes in sales. We like to use sports analogies and sports leadership all the time for very good reason. They make a really good point. But the amount of time those people put into the practice of the action versus the actual action, it's probably inverted in sales, where we're kind of practicing with some of our customer engagements. And that's okay. But I think as a task, you should probably ask, when was the last time you really mastered a skill to improve your performance? How much are you investing in yourself so that when you turn up on game time, you are really ready to perform? And if you're struggling to find that time, what's getting in the way? And if it's not helping you perform at a high performance level, you probably need to park it or deprioritize it. And the final idea is this concept of adopting what I call a river thinking attitude. I wish I was in a room and I'd ask for a show of hands. If you could think like either a river or a canal, which would you choose? And we're a diverse group, like any group. I'm sure there's many. And I'm sure I could talk about how brilliant canals are if I had to. But for the purposes of this masterclass, I think rivers give a great frame for how we might think as salespeople. Sales needs a route. It needs a path and a plan. It's a collection of compromises, and successful sellers inject creativity. And natural pace is not high speed. Natural pace to me is about gears, and you have to know which gear you should be in. And if you think of a river, the river hits the sea at a point, and that's really interesting. That could be the target or the deal. But all of the really interesting stuff happens back up river. If you think about objections and challenges, think about a canal. When the lock is there, full stop, no progress. Rivers find a way, and salespeople need to find a way to create options. Never put your prospect or your customer into a kind of a yes no reaction, because there'll be a finality to that if it's not positive. You're looking for common ground. You're looking for ways to actually progress the conversation. You're always only looking for the next step. You're not looking to close it. The closing of it takes care of itself if you keep them on the path. And negotiation is the art of it, right? It's not about a rigid process. It's about talking to your customers and finding ways to make the solutions that you have work with the challenges that they're experiencing. Focus on the journey, not the destination. I mentioned that entrepreneur and CEO Howard that I worked for years. That was something he used to say. Sure, we've got a North Star. We are aiming somewhere. We are going somewhere. But we have to enjoy the journey. That's the day job. That's what we're doing. And solving problems as you hit those barriers during the day job, during the journey. Your ability to tackle those comes from what I and Joe in my sessions with him framed as upstream thinking. And its ability to pause and go back, think of the visual, go back up the river and see where the water maybe is operating at a different pace, is hitting a different rock and is trying to find a way to get it through it. And I think for me, tech sales is an incredibly exciting industry to be part of right now. You have to enjoy these moments, as challenging as they all are with the context of the global pandemic. But, in tech sales especially, the products and services that we offer right now are a really good response to the struggles that our businesses and our prospects find themselves in. So we have to be there to help them solve those problems. And the last thing I just want to say in terms of solving those problems is, in sales, don't get into the trap of, updating a CRM and my job is done. Your job is to write the story, not just report the news. We're in sales. We're not in journalism. And I think the call to action I might have for people here is, I think you'll think intuitively you can do this, but really write down what it is your role is responsible for, end to end. Review the best in class rep or manager that's in your business and ask them to help you. What is it that to be an exceptional performer at this role I need to be doing? And of course, there's gaps. There's gaps everywhere. And be comfortable asking for the help, because your ability to be vulnerable and show that you're coachable is another way that you can attain that kind of space of high performance, I think. So just to summarize at the end, it's not 2 cents, it's 3 cents. Speak and communicate with cartoon clarity. Slow down to speed up and get your process and your structure really right, and learn as you go to make a difference for your performance in a meaningful way. And whether it's canals or rivers, I'm using rivers here, it's just that flexibility and that creativity of approach to problems as they come. I think if you thought about those 3 aspects and maybe brought it into your working space, I think you'd be closer to a high performance work zone at the moment. And I'm incredibly passionate about it, but I wish everybody the best of luck in what are challenging times, and feel free to reach out and connect if I can help with any of this. So back to you, CJ.